We pulled this Firebird out of the woods in Talkeetna, Alaska, where it had been sitting for 40 years. Despite our best attempts, we were unable to save the original drivetrain. So we decided to put ourselves up to a challenge. In this video, we're prepping the engine for installation and figuring out the nuances of mounting the LTG engine into our 67 Firebird.
We got Mr. Flash checking it out. What do you think of the Firebird, Flash? Do you think it's a good project? You like it? The inside is white, just like you. It's white and black. You guys are crazy. We figured out that the Firebird is incredibly weight heavy on the front. It's about 60%, 40% rear. So we want to lighten up the front of this car so we can actually take it to an SCCA event and do okay. So we figured out that you can do an LTG 2-liter swap. No one's ever done one that I'm aware of in a first-gen Camaro, but GM offers it, or used to offer it as a crate engine. We figured we could get our own from a production car, since they don't produce it as a crate engine anymore, and do our own LTG 2-liter swap with a 6-speed manual transmission. Perfect. Wow. T56 Magnum, you wouldn't be able to, you couldn't do this with it. No. Like half the weight. Huh. This is like 4-speed weights. This is great. I like the way they've highlighted Tremec transmissions. The first order of business is going to be removing this automatic flex plate and putting the clutch and flywheel onto our new 2-liter engine. So this engine has come out of a 2018 Chevy Malibu, and then we've sourced a 2019 Camaro 6-speed manual Tremec transmission that was also behind a 2-liter engine that came in a Camaro, but in Anchorage we couldn't find a 2-liter engine that came out of a Camaro because Camaros are super rare up here because no one drives a rear-wheel drive Camaro in the winter. We purchased a new flywheel and pressure plate and clutch assembly from General Motors via Rock Auto to go onto our LTG engine. We're going to go ahead and install that now so that we can mate up the transmission. So the stock clutch will hold up just fine to our driving application since this engine is completely bone stock, and we're not modifying it or turning up the booster, doing anything crazy. We are going to go ahead and strip this wiring harness off of here, put the clutch on it, get the transmission on the engine, test fit this junk into our new subframe, and see if it'll even fit in the car.
Now, this isn't a swap that's done very often, so engine mounts for this specific application don't even exist.
Yes, so we are going to custom fabricate our own engine mount. We got to figure out some type of engine mount that will bolt into the Heights subframe, and then we're going to fabricate out mounts. I'm thinking that like a GM clamshell type mount may bolt onto this pattern, and then we'll be able to make some like fabricated pieces to connect up to the engine block. So it'll basically have two like forks that come down off the engine and then attach to the rubber mounts.
We'll be using such tools as CAD, cardboard aided design.
Yes. Plasma cutter, a cutoff wheel.
And Aaron's TIG welder.
And yeah, Aaron's TIG welder and the MIG welder most likely as well.
Yep.
And the drill press.
Yes. This wiring harness is for a 2018 Chevy Malibu, so of course the plugs and the layout of the wiring harness is in the completely wrong orientation. So what we've elected to do is buy a completely different harness from a 2018 Chevy Camaro, which places the engine computer plugs and all the wiring connections at the right front corner of the engine, which is exactly where we want it.
Mint! Figure if some dude can swap one of these into an airboat, we can definitely do it. That's probably like a cam position sensor. I bet you that's a coolant, maybe a coolant flow sensor or something, because there's like these different things. I'm thinking that these maybe go to the heater core and that maybe goes to the radiator, but I'm not 100% sure. Because I heard something about these being like heater core lines, but I could be mistaken. Looks like a AVCS solenoid type thing. Or some kind of solenoid for the camshafts, I suspect. Your guys' guess is as good as mine. I don't know anything about this, all the electronics and what everything does on this engine per se. I know a good bit about GM wiring, so I can definitely modify the harness to work with it. Now back here, we have some like studs with wiring. It looks like there's a 10 mil holding a ground on right here. Crankshaft position sensor most likely back here. Got our block heater. No, there it goes. Another ground down here. Oil level sensor down here. Oh, there's a connector up in here too. Must be a knock sensor. Wow, there's a connector on everything. Another coolant sensor or something. Looks like multiple knock sensors. Yeah, I'm just assuming that that's what it runs. Because, you know, most like end users are not going to be running premium in a Chevy Malibu. It's like, who does that? That makes easy work out of it. Okay, well, looks like we need a 15 and we need a 10. Oh, interesting. Part of the wiring harness is inside the intake manifold. This plug here runs inside to the inside something in the intake. So we don't need to mess with that. We can just plug in the other harness to that, as far as I know. More clips. Lots and lots of clips on this engine harness, I'll tell you what. Well, to all the naysayers, you may say, why are you installing this weird 4-cylinder engine in this Firebird when it originally came with an awesome V8? Well,
Because handling.
yes, this is all in the name of handling. This engine is going to make a lot of power for its size to weight ratio, or power to weight ratio. And it's a GM made engine, so it's not like it's not like an import or something here.
Well, it is an imported engine, but it's sold by GM.
Yeah. Huh, this is using the old school style injector plug.
Yeah. Bosch connector.
They're totally right. It is a Bosch connector. You can tell because this thing looks like a Bosch part number.
Indeed.
Don't mind me here. Okay, I think that's the whole wiring harness. We won't be using that right now. I'll just move this out of the way back here.
Well, now the air is fully charged up, and I think we can install that new clutch.
Yeah, I think so. Ta-da! So small.
Oh, yeah. That could be you.
Genuine GM. I like how their tape says GM on it. That is the pressure plate and clutch. Ta-da! So this looks to be, made in Germany. Wow, that's different. It's like a dual mass flywheel, I'm assuming? This will drive real nice, yeah. Wow, what a nice setup.
Pilot bearing, too. That's really nice.
And it looks like it even has a little, like a skim of grease in there. Oh, wow, that's kind of... That'll be really easy to drive. These are the bolts that hold the flywheel onto the crankshaft. The flywheel uses 8 bolts to hold on. The bolts are GM part number 11610954. And they look like this.
To 22 foot-pounds. This is a good fix for this problem here.
Cut that part out. So now we're going to turn it 80 degrees. Okay, ready to hold it?
Yep.
Bracing engine and 80. .22 foot-pounds. It seems kind of light, but All right, let's unpalletize this awesome transmission. That was anticlimactic. There it goes. Okay.
A little bit of grease helped it out.
Yeah.
It's funny how that worked because it made all the difference in the world. This is such a cool engine package. It's so light, man.
It is so light. The left-right thing. That sounds like a neutral. Just like with that spinning free like that.
I think it would be the coolest thing in the world, just be able to drive this thing as fast as you want around a like autocross course, and you're not worried. It feels like a new car. It's not going to be
Like, oh man, is it going to blow up?
not like this clapped, janky, vibrating, squeaky, rattly thing.
Yep. Boy, what do we have here? Yeah. There's the exhaust pipe.
3-inch, huh?
Sure looks that way, doesn't it? Blah, 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 blah. That's not how it's going to sound. Oh, they got that wrapped around there. Wow. That's nice. Well, that fits nice.
I know. Isn't that cool?
Most accurate calipers known to man. The Pittsburgh. Want to go inches? That appears to be 3-inch pipe. Well, 2.96, but that's definitely like 3-inch. So we should be set. We just need this gasket. It goes in there. Little groove gasket for GM. I'm sure they sell that. I got a little bit of chain twist, but that's about normal. This is such a hilarious setup in here. This one good? We ended up taking the hood off the car because the engine lift wouldn't clear. What's it hitting? Oh, it's drain plug is hitting the crossmember.
Okay, lift it up a little bit, and then I'll lift up on the front of the engine. Okay, now push it back.
We got the 2-liter hanging in here, but we are running into a problem with the oil pan clearing the cross member. Otherwise, it fits totally fine. If we can get it to drop down and level out, it'll totally clear everything just fine. We will have to go with like a vintage air kit to make the firewall flat. Aaron is the current engine mount of choice. Transmission ends up sitting a lot farther forward with this engine than I would expect, but I think once it like drops down and goes in there, it would be fine. The only other thing we'd be able to do is just push it back farther, but I don't think we'll get clearance to get the oil pan past that cross member. Not without like a full recessed firewall or something.
It looks to only be like an inch and a quarter at most. So technically, this oil pan would be just above that bottom plate down there.
Flip it, weld it in.
And then our cut is going to be all the way up to here, maybe?
Yeah.
Leaving about an inch, something like that, roughly.
Yep.
Well, back out with the motor and back in with the grinder.
Hey, you're good with the cutoff wheel, right? Oh, body's like not. What's going on there? At the top, make the 3 cuts on the top first, and then I'll just kind of hand follow it down and then across the bottom.
Sweet.
So much thicker than the original frame.
Wait, so you donated all those shirts to Goodwill?
Yeah, I donated them all to Goodwill.
So we have a city full of people walking around with this shirt who bought it at Goodwill for like $4.
Potentially.
You know, this is actually great marketing. I can't believe I didn't think of this when we were actually running the show.
No, I could have just donated them all to Goodwill, then everyone would be walking around with them, and it's like, oh wow, what's
No
that?
wonder we keep getting so many messages on Facebook.
Shut down your shop and then donate all your shirts. It's actually a pretty cool shirt. They're out of production now, unfortunately.
Oh, that is cool.
I forget which one this is. Is it?
C10.
Oh, it's old C10. Speaking of C10s, we need to have the C10 unveiling.
Oh, yeah.
Get out of the sinking into the mud pole barn.
Drive it down the road and go, wow, the steering is sketchy, and then park it again for 2 years.
So now that we've cut the cross member, let's test fit the motor back in here and see how it fits.
Take one.
Take two. I think this is a take two, legitimately. Talk about getting a better weight distribution. Oh yeah, and with our shaved firewall with the vintage air, this will be totally fine. So with most engines, you want to have a pinion angle of about 3 degrees roughly, maybe 2.5, depends on the engine, drivetrain setup. We're going to shoot for like a 3-degree pinion angle on this setup. Right now, we are sitting at, what was the pinion angle?
About 8 degrees.
Well, that's almost 90 then. Mm-hmm. What are we at?
82.5.
Okay, so we're at like an 8-degree angle right now.
So what we realistically need to do is bring that back the transmission up.
There we go. That's touching something. Just barely touching right there. I think it's like a rib of the transmission that's hitting. Maybe I could just make like marks of where it kind of hits. Or I could just circle the upper parts of the transmission that are... Sure, yeah. Well, that's kind of a good guesstimate. I just made some random marks on the sides of this thing here. Kind of get an idea of what the width of the transmission is, and we could just kind of hammer that whole area up, I think.
Sure. Well, that's nice.
Oh, that is really nice. Can't argue with the quality of that. We have contact. It's got to go up about a ½ inch in the front.
So let's just raise up the transmission tunnel and that'll be that.
Okay.
All right, we test fit the rack. We're within a ½ inch or less of clearing. So this is as low as we can take the motor feasibly without changing the steering geometry and everything.
Absolutely.
So we are just going to pull it back out and cut the transmission tunnel.
Ding, ding, ding. And where am I going with this? Just out of the way so we can weld, get the welder in here.
Oh, wait, hold on a second. Look at this. I've got my matching gloves.
Oh, yeah. Those are what I was wearing earlier. Miller. Wait a minute. You're not wearing the Miller welding helmet.
Yeah, she...
We're going to prime the subframe now.
Kind of missed some of this in here.
Ooh, that spray pattern. Yikes.
Now for the oversprayed areas, I'll wipe that off. Blend this in nice and neat like that. To the line.
Perfect. Looks good to me.
And we just let that kind of do its sweet thing.
Just like the refrigerator.
Duplicates original GM colors.
Well, this isn't exactly a GM color, but
So acrylic lacquer.
good for spray paint.
Tip, it's going to be nice and thin.
Blend and send.
Actually, not too bad.
Job well done. So what we have here is the things that headaches are made of. Just kidding.
Bags of bolts with no labels.
Yes. All right, inside here we have the new heights parts to put on the subframe. This is the hardware kit for installing the front suspension. You get a instruction manual and this hardware kit. The impact wrench will tighten that right on up. Threaded deals. Cool. There's something else in here. No. We got the steering arms. Nice. Well, it has a lower control arm on it, so that was a hard day's work. Let's go get some engine mats. Let's get some dinner and engine mats.
Hey. Cool.